If you've got Blackberry, then you've got a problem. Lost productivity and poor environmental outcomes lead to lower land values. This online calculator can help you work out how much it'll cost to bring your land back into production and the benefits that come with it. Once you're on the VBT website, click on the link to download the Agricultural Productivity Tool. The model will open up on the Introduction tab. Scroll through to understand a little bit about the purpose of the model and how it's been built. Click next to the bottom of that tab. There's various terms and conditions around the usage of the model. Scroll through that second tab and click next. The next tab you'll come to talks about some broad definitions of land classes, which you can then apply to your specific property. Scroll through and have a read of the land class definitions so you can have a better understanding of the later inputs in terms of your property. We also included some graphics there in terms of Blackberry infestation and intensity and density that you might experience on your property. These are all definitions that are incorporated into the model, so take some time to scroll through this page and understand what we mean by light, or a moderate and a heavy infestation. We've also included some definitions around the standard and the quality of access that you've got on your particular property, the type of terrain and slope. We've also included some definitions around a treatment regime varying from a passive, an active and an aggressive approach to your Blackberry control. There's some assumptions in the model there that you should also understand when we're talking about the numbers that will flow later in the results section. Click next to go on to the next tab. The next tab you'll come to is the instruction page. There's various fields there that are colour-coded which will help you to understand where you need to input data and where you can select various information from drop-down cells. The next tab's the instructions for use. There's various fields in here that are colour-coded which will help you to understand where we're asking the user to input data that's specific to their own property or to select from drop-down boxes. Click on the I agree to the terms of the model to enable you to move to the next step. Once you've clicked I agree, that will open up the specific data entry fields that are applicable to your property. The first one that we'll click on is called Treatments and Products. The Treatments and Products page allows you to select the type of chemical that you'd like to use, the cost of that chemical, and the strength that you're applying it at. What you can then further do is select the various products as a mix and identify a particular treatment combination. The next tab is the Land and Property tab, and it's where you input your specific property details and the information that's relevant to your operation. You'll see that you need to focus on the yellow shaded tabs. They're the input tabs. First thing to input's the landholder data and the general property data. Perhaps where we get into the most important side of things is in section 3 under the livestock production gross margin section. Because each farm is different and each operation is different, table 3 allows you to select the class of livestock that you're turning off annually, whether it be steers, cows and calves, or maybe you turn them off at weaner weight. It'll allow you to input the number of head, estimate of the number of head that you sell annually, the average weight that you would sell them at, and the average price in dollars per kilo. From there we move on to an estimate of your variable cost production as a percentage of that sale price, as a high level metric. If you follow across, what we've also built into the model is a livestock class in terms of an equivalent of dry sheep equivalent, and that can be overridden using this field if you feel that that's more applicable to your scenario. Where we go to from there is identifying the type of country that you've got on your property, whether it be premium quality agricultural land, highly productive land, through to the moderate productivity and the lower quality type of country. We also identify the terrain, whether it be relatively flat, sloping, through to some steeper country. This all informs the cost of controlling a Blackberry in terms of physically getting over the land. What we're also estimating for each class of land is your current productive capacity or carrying capacity, and what you feel that the potential carrying capacity of the land would be if it weren't infested with blackberry. As you move over the table, you can see a projected uplift in terms of a DSC per hectare or an efficiency gain following a treatment regime. Table 5 allows you as a user to select the particular approach that you'd like to take to the control of the blackberries on your farm, from a passive approach, an active approach, or an aggressive approach. Obviously, the costs and benefits associated with those various treatment regimes are going to vary, and each and every person has got their own particular preference and budget around what is achievable on your property. As we scroll further down, dependent upon the inputs that you made in the model around the class of country and the type of terrain that you've got on your farm, the model asks you to input various specific factors. They include the level of infestation density, which again we spoke about earlier in the definitions page. You can click on a hyperlink there to review those definitions if you need to at this point. The standard of the access over that country, whether it's good, fair, or whether it's quite difficult to access. The particular control method that you'd like to apply to that land. Say if it's flat country and it's easily accessible, then you might select a ground control method, ranging to steeper country which has got a difficult level of access where you might need to employ an aerial control model. The last section that we select there is the treatment combination. You'll recall when we selected the type of products, chemical products we were going to be using, it also allowed us to tailor up the particular mix that we apply to various scenarios. Using the drop-down box here, you can select the particular type of mix that you have previously input. On the Control Methods tab, it allows you to select the type of method that you'd like to use to control blackberries on your farm, whether it be ground or aerial application. The yellow input fields allow you to tailor the labour component and the cost of that labour into your specific scenario, whether you want to use full contractor rates or whether you want to input your own labour at a unit rate that's at your choosing. The idea is to generate a total daily cost of undertaking that control. Similarly, we've also got some inputs that you can make around the cost of that aerial control, from the cost of the helicopter per hour, the amount of loads that it completes per hour, the amount of country that it can cover on an hourly basis, or how much chemical you can put out over a particular time period. Again, the intent here is to generate an overall cost of what it would cost per day to undertake the control on your farm. Once we click Next, this gives us some assumptions and some metrics that have been built into the model around the definition of what we class as an aggressive, an active and a passive management strategy. The tables are fairly self-explanatory, but essentially they're aiming to summarise what an aggressive and an active and a passive management regime looks like in terms of the amount of country that's dealt with over a 5-year period, whether that be early in the period or whether that be spread out more over the course of those 5 years. The cost that's associated with each of those management approaches is obviously variable, and that will be borne out later in the results that will be generated. So if we click Next, we move over to some tables here which have been generated in terms of a summary on the amount of country that's treated every year as either a primary treatment or a follow-up or a maintenance treatment, the cost per hectare and the total benefit that you're likely to achieve in terms of additional numbers of livestock that you can run on the farm now that you haven't got as much land that's impacted by the blackberries. As we click across there, what we can now see is some graphical representation of the 5-year projected cost and benefit, as well as the cumulative cost and benefit of the various inputs that you've made to your property. The benefit of reviewing the cost-benefit graphs that you see at the end of the model are that it allows you to see where those costs are being expended over that 5-year period, and at what point you start to see some net gain or some net benefit. The assumptions that you put into the model can then be tailored in the earlier input sections, and you'll see the results of these projections change and allow you to tailor a specific management approach to the blackberries on your farm. The details I've just put in are examples. Yours, of course, are going to be different as each property is. If you need any more information, please contact the Victorian Blackberry Task Force.